me? Perfect. Okay, thank you everybody. Just a quick note on Maxim from National Bank. Unfortunately, he could not make it today. He sent me a message. He is unwell. Or I scared him off when I told him to bring his approval stamp this morning. So, we'll start off with Nick and Jason. I'll just give you guys a couple of minutes. Now, this is an open panel. We do have some discussion points we can talk about, but I want you guys to lift up your hand if you have any questions that you want to address, and between the three of us, we're going to address them the best that we can. So don't be shy. So we'll start with Nick. Nick, tell us a little bit about yourself in a minute or two and your experience.
Yeah, so I started out with, like just most of you guys out there, sitting at the tables listening to the experts here. And we started off with a condo, and then another one, and then another one, and then it just really snowballs into really what we focus on now, which is multifamily, and also now dabbling into commercial as well. So we have a pretty sizable portfolio, and it's growing every year.
Fantastic. And Jason is here from one of my favorite Nicks. I can say that because the other ones are not here today. So
someone's looking for an approval.
He brought his approval stamp.
No pressure. My name's Jason Kelly. I'm with Westboro Mick. I'm business development manager. I've been with them for 4 years. Been on the broker side, working with Sue and many different lenders for the past 20 years.
Fantastic. So Westboro is really catered to construction financing. They're a temporary in and out lender. So they're that lender that you need when you want to get the property up to the standard that you want before you take it out to institutional financing. So we have a couple of mic people across the room. Just lift your hand if you have a question. Until those come through, we will chat a little bit. So Nick, everyone here knows I'm a huge proponent of multi-unit. I'm a fan of multi-unit investing. Really, when you get tapped out residentially, which is happening more and more now with single-family units, you're getting tapped out at the banks or institutional lenders. That's the reality of it. So multi-unit is a fantastic step to jump into once you're tapped out, because it's a completely different way of doing financing. You are not going to be tapped out. You're not limited to 5 or 6 or 7 properties. So what made you jump right into multi-units? What was the appeal?
Yeah, so for, as she's mentioned, there's no limit. If the deal makes sense and you can prove that you're a good borrower and good repayer, you will get money, always. So that's a great benefit, because when you're starting out and you need to gain your experience, and you need to go to the banks, go to the brokers to be able to try to get your financing. It's difficult, and oftentimes it may feel like you're trying to put a round peg in a square hole. That's how it feels on the residential side. On the commercial side, when you really get into it, it's truly, you have a round peg and you have a round hole, and it just works all the time. And at that level, the banks are very much, and the lenders are very much professional, and they see you as also a professional borrower as well. So it's a lot easier, it's much more business, and they really look more at the property first than they look at you personally. So.
Right, so the nice thing about that is when you're a professional investor, you don't have income per se, salaried income, employment income. In the multi-unit side of things, that's no longer a major concern, whereas if you're trying to qualify to purchase that townhome or bungalow rental property, it becomes a concern. So Nick knows it really well, and when I have clients who come and see me who are tapped out at 6 or 7 properties, and they're just saying they don't want to go to alternative rates, they want to stay institutional, we talk about moving up into multi-unit. So multi-unit is 5 units or more, and that is what can qualify in the commercial space. So Jason, we're going to talk a little bit about construction financing. So the thing that you guys do really, really well. And so tell us a little bit about on the construction financing projects that you've seen come through, what are maybe the top 2 or 3 mistakes or lessons learned that you wish people knew about before they jumped in?
The most common one that we see all the time is people that will come in, they'll have their plans, they'll have their budget, they set their budget, someone goes to an open house on the weekend or watches one of these TV shows and decides that they're going to completely change what they're doing. This can create a lot of problems, because what happens is the client ends up over budget, and they can run into trouble getting access to more money. So if you're going to make any changes, so whether it's what you're finishing in the house, you're changing the plans, anything that you're doing, I cannot stress enough that you go and talk to a mortgage professional first before you make those changes. It can really impact you. You can be using us as a short-term solution to do your financing, but for whatever reason you might run over budget. Now you're using credit cards, line of credit, borrowing from family, and you think when you're done you're going to be able to get traditional financing. You don't realize what the impact of that can be. And that's a big problem. People not understanding as well, when you go to get a draw, what are you actually going to receive? How much money are you going to receive? Are you going to have enough money to pay your trades? Do you understand that there's a holdback with every draw that you do? It's very important that you understand that, because once people aren't getting paid, no one's happy.
Right, so the key rule of thumb is planning, budgeting in advance. Once you're in the project and you run out of money and you owe trades money, it's extremely hard to go back to the lender and ask for more because they've already budgeted the loan based on what was submitted, right?
Absolutely.
Perfect, so.
I'm gonna jump in actually.
For sure.
I think the biggest thing that I see on newer investors that are borrowing for construction is they forget about the holdbacks and they forget about the HST portion that is currently not funded at the bank level. So you have to have that in cash in your bank account ready to pay that, because your trade and your contractor is not gonna wait until you're completely done with the project for them to get their portion of their 10% holdback. So just make sure you think about that. You have to talk with a broker, you have to talk with the experts so that you can plan properly.
And what happens when a contractor doesn't get paid? What do they do typically?
Liens.
Well, your project is not going to get completed sooner. It's going to get it completed, later. So, and that obviously puts a lot more stress on the project and a lot more stress on the builder or on the investor.
So the contractors can essentially, put a lien against the property, and before the next draw, when the file's going through the lawyers, they're doing a lien search. If the lien comes up, the money that you were expecting on the draw to keep going, it's going to go to the trade that wasn't paid. So it's definitely a hurdle that happens. Now, any questions? Don't be shy, guys. We're so quiet today.
I can give an example actually yesterday, just of someone I couldn't believe this phone call, and I feel terrible for the client, but I received a call from a broker who had been dealing with who had a client that had been dealing with, we won't name the bank, but had been dealing with the bank. They sold their house, they moved in with family, and they were planning on building a home. So they went to the bank, they said they had $400,000. Whoever the person was that they were speaking to at the bank indicated, use your own money before you have to pay interest on any money for your construction financing. What ended up happening was they did that, they built, then they went back to the bank and said, okay, we're gonna require some additional funds to finish the project. And at that point, the clients let the bank know that the property was on leased land. And that created a massive, massive problem. So to answer the question, we can't help. I felt terrible for the client and the experience that they've had. I'm not sure how they're going to get out of that particular project. Maybe Sue can answer that, but it's really important that you explain everything. Don't if you're thinking it and it's your first time doing it, there's no such thing as a stupid question. It's an important project.
I don't think so.
Hello? Oh, there we go. Yeah, sorry, I'm relatively new to real estate investing, and I was just wondering roughly what kind of loan would be available on, say, like a small multi-unit building that was well located. If it was, 6 units, what kind of rough loan to value and rate might you be looking at kind of today?
So in regards to loan to value, it's difficult to answer that question without the operating expenses and the income for the property. But conventionally, you can go up to 75%, and CMHC, a lot of people aren't aware of the fact that you can go all the way up to 85%. Now, 85% is achieved on a really well operating property that is cash flowing really nicely. So what we do in those cases is we look at the net operating income, shop it around to a couple of different institutions. If Maxime was here, but he's not, I would go to him as one of the lenders, and then we'd see what they come back with the maximum loan amount. What have we seen on interest rates I can tell you that CMHC, we've gotten as low as under 3%, 2.8. Sometimes even lower depending on the property, up until the 3.25 roughly is what we're at. But with the coronavirus and everything happening right now, rates are going down further, so we could see even lower rates on that. And that's the nice thing about the multi-unit space is the rates that you can achieve are phenomenal, and you cash flow amazingly on the property at 2.8. And you know, some clients here, some people here that I know, and clients can attest to that. And so, do you want to add anything to the 6-unit?
Yeah. So one thing that I've seen over the years, and quite honestly, to be fully admitting, my earlier lessons is I was getting too stuck on the interest rate as opposed to really focusing on the loan amount and the strategy of the financing, the overall financing strategy. Listen, if you got to pay 1% more or 1.5% more or even 2% more to have the right type of financing for you to get to the end without any major financing issues, it's worth it. Your project will likely be 1 year or less, 2 years or less. In the grand scheme of things, if you're holding for 10 years or 5 years or whatever, it's insignificant. Pay the money, pay the higher interest rate to have the right lender. That was definitely one thing that I had to learn the hard way.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. We have another question here in the front.
Hi. Just wondering, what is the minimum entry point to be talking to you guys? How much net worth do you have to have, what properties, and income do you have to have before you can kind of get to that level?
So are you referring to like multi-unit, ready to go, or construction?
Multi-unit.
Multi-unit. So conventionally, we have lenders that don't require the net worth. It's the CMHC guidelines that require that net worth. On a very strong property, we've been able to have a little bit of flexibility with the net worth. I'm sure Nick can attest to that. In your earlier years of building your multi-unit portfolio, you don't necessarily have the net worth. So it goes with the risk and the loan to value as well. So the less net worth, you're likely not getting 85%. Do you want to add anything?
I would say if you're starting out, the two things that I've seen from the borrower side is you really gotta present yourself, and you really gotta